Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, hi everyone, how are you? I'm in such a good mood today. So you even have me in my Salesforce jacket or sweater, I guess. Yeah, they send us new stuff all the time. So everyone knows we just had a daughter and she already has Salesforce gear. Like they already sent her a onesie and the little trailhead rabbit, I believe, is the mascot. So super cool. So someone's really still pleased with us, which is good. So the email I wrote this morning, a little passion, right? So so let's see. I always find it interesting the concept of, hey Frida, oh, thank you. I always find it interesting the concept of mistakes as people look at it and they run from it like it's the plague or something. Oh my God, a mistake happened. What do I do? I found that in my entire career, mistakes are literally God's gifts. Every single time. When you go into something, you do it with your heart, right? Like you do it with all the best intentions, all your best calculations, everything as good as it could be. And what's great about that is when something goes wrong, you know what it is because you were right there. You know exactly what you were doing and where that thing went wrong. You then go ahead and say, okay, great. Well, now let's correct this and let's correct it. Let's correct it. Let's correct it. And those are the stair steps from beginning to something really quite successful. And what's even more impressive about mistakes is it has its way of weeding people out. It's Newton's natural selection. Those that find mistakes to be so pulverizing that they go out of business or they quit or they can't do something are exactly what is the difference between successful companies and those that are not successful. In fact, if everyone lived a life of no mistakes, everyone would be competing with each other and everyone would be equally as qualified and no one would ever stand out. So when a mistake happens, I become the happiest person in the world. Look at my smile. So when we went ahead, and we've never done marketing, right? And everyone always knows that. And I remember when I used to work with Rick, that's all they did, right? Like he's really good at that stuff. It's still to this day, people, I see his emails and I look at them and I'm like, this thing is misspelled. But they're all still quite successful. I still take a look at his stuff and I'm like, oh, all right, well, someone clicks it, right? Like the kid's still in business. And I remember back when we did ClickFunnels and Karcher accounts and membership sites and all of this stuff. And it's funny because I've left that stuff behind me, not because it wasn't important, but because I always believed that if you were going to be marketing, you had to market something. It was you didn't learn to market, then find the stuff to market, right? And that's fine. That's what marketing companies did. But I was never a marketing company. I never believed, all right, let me go take God's gift of being able to persuade and influence and nudge and mobilize and activate people, and let me use that for any product. All right, what do you got? What do you got? What do you got? So the marketing was never of interest to me because I always knew how to, do sales and marketing. So it was always my interest to go ahead and create the best thing. And then when we created the best thing, then we would worry about the marketing. And in creating the best thing, it's like, has anyone here ever bartended? So early Anthony bartended. And the money is just not real, right? Like when you bartend, especially when I was younger, like minimum wage was $8, but I would bartend and make like say $300 on a given night. And to go ahead and make that same amount of money in the real world, you had to work a 9 to 5 and after taxes and after this, and you had to do a lot of stuff. So it was always, to go ahead and leave a world that you knew could not last forever, you had to take a pay cut. Like I've never been a stripper, but I suspect the really, really pretty young girls that want to be strippers, which by the way, is like the worst profession ever, like don't do it. But I imagine when they go from that profession to say real estate agent or hairdresser or, doctor, right? Like whatever they do after that, the income is a steep, steep drop off because now you're investing in growing something long term. And the point of the story is when we decided to go with RHINO in terms of creating something, the vision was we were going to have to take that sacrifice, that our income was going to drop, the hours worked were going to be higher. There was just going to be pain. And people that know my background, I worked on, I did a lot of things where I had really strong immediate gratification. Like I could pick up the phone, hey, Mr. Jones, this is why we're buying ABC. Listen to me right now. Let's go ahead and do 10,000 call. And after that call, it was 5% commission on that ticket. So that ticket was $100,000. It was a $5,000 commission check to me like that. Now, I didn't have to go ahead and put a full presentation together because Mr. Jones knew who I was. We've been doing business for quite some time. All he said was, yeah, Anthony, go ahead. Thanks for calling. Meaning, I've always had the ability to go ahead and make a large amount of money in a very short period of time, but they never actually built something, because then the next month, say Mr. Jones went and switched his broker or something, what would I do? So it was always, let's go ahead and actually build something. And it wasn't let's build something just because let's build something, but this economy, this world really touches me. It just does. It actually infuriates me. Like when I watch the news, I want to take something and throw something. When I see what's happening to children over here in Balenciaga is outright saying like, we're okay with pedophile. Like the things that people do just disgust me. And the part that bothers me the most is it all comes down to finances. It all comes down to education. Like that's step one. Because when you go ahead and siphon the money out of all different communities, you leave them completely susceptible to having to be dependent on corporation and or government in that community. That's the problem with what I see with search engines and social media. Not only does it overly sexualize children or do this or do that or whatever the case may be, which are all really, really bad, but it siphons all of the money out of Main Street because mom and pop shops are not equipped, nor should they, nor are they designed to be, to compete with corporations. By definition, if you're a Main Street mom and pop shop, you don't have a budget of $1 million, and nor do you ever want it. You are just happy to be taking care of your community. Your only goal is to be a pillar of your community. Your only goal, your only satisfaction is knowing that you mattered and you were there for the people that you love, your neighbors. And then all out of nowhere comes like a chain restaurant that is taking the data of everyone in your community. They know what you're searching, and then they start sending them coupons that completely undercut everything you do. They have endless budgets to continue doing it. That person eventually goes ahead and buys from that place. How many people eventually, before you, which are limited to only the people in your population, only the people in your community, no longer have the sales and you go out of business? Now that chain comes in, and now what? See, it sounds a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but that actually is what's happening now. And because I'm looking out forward, I then ask myself, well, if this continues, what's the world we're going to live in? If we believe things are over-sexualized now and we believe that there's abuses and unfairness now, what is it going to be going forward? Because the thing with technology is it's exponential, right? Like anything that's happening today, then add 1%, then add 1%. And before you get it, you're on this really, really crazy curve where it's out of your control. And anyone that believes that government is going to be the saving grace, oh, you know what, government's going to stand up for us because politicians are really honest and they care about me. Or corporation, no, they did an ad, they care about me. I'm black, I'm gay, I'm trans, whatever. They love me because they said in their ad. Well, then you're like literally the problem, because that's never going to happen. So when we decided to build RHINO, it was how can we go ahead and do two things? How can we go ahead and transfer the wealth from the 1% back to the 99% where it belongs? How can we go ahead and transfer the wealth from demographic to population, right? And how can we keep it there? RHINO Bucks is designed, it's financially engineered to only go up. It's so crazy to me that we built something that only goes up, and I still have to come out here and try to like shake people and tell them what's going on. But because there's like a whole bunch of financial like rules and regulations against me shaking you and telling you what we're doing, I simply just sit back and post a chart of it every day. And every day it goes up because it's completely financially engineered to go up. And then people say, well, Anthony, you know, if you do that, it's really this and it's really, no, it's not. Because we're not telling anyone to go ahead and purchase all their money. We're saying we're going to take the sacrifice to grow the base out so that the base is able to do reoccurring weekly on a low dollar amount, and that together that the population can actually value themselves and go ahead and completely 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 automated every single week, and the price will just continue. In fact, one of our rhinos goes, Anthony, it sounds like, why would anyone sell? the people that want to buy, it's automated. How are they going to buy? Well, they're going to buy from someone that has it to sell, but they don't want to sell. I understand that, but everyone has a price. Well, that price might be so high. Great, now you know where the price of the coin is going. And because money is finite, the increase in price of RHINO means a decrease of something else. Now, if you pour a cup of water in the ocean, is the ocean level go higher? Yeah, but you can't really calculate that. Well, that's what's happening with the RHINO. Right now, it keeps going up. It's pulling money from somewhere. It's not like it just poofed it out of thin air. But what happens when the price goes to 100, to 1,000, to 1,000,000, to 1,000,000,000? Where's the money going to come from? That's the point. That's when things really start getting fun. And you might say, well, Anthony, like, how is that even possible? Like $1 billion price? That's crazy. Who would buy that? The people that are already buying it. They're not making the decision to buy it. They're making the decision to continue being opted in. They're making the decision to continue buying $1 or $10 or $100 a week. Well, why would they want to do it? Because it's going up. But what if they stop? That's why it's automated and already opted in. For them to stop, they'd have to find a really large percentage of them. So say like 50% would have to all sell their holdings and go ahead and opt out at the same exact time. And even then you'd still have 50% doing the same thing that would lure the other ones back. Okay, well, Ant, all right, so I get it. You're gonna blah, blah, blah. You're gonna bring all the money over here. Then what? Well, you gotta keep it within community. That's what RHINO Street is. You're able to search only the 20 miles around you. It's the people that you know. It's actually your community. So no one's saying go on RHINO Street and only go on RHINO Street and throw Google away. I love Google. Google's amazing. Every time I want to know the best chicken pot pie recipe, I go on Google. But I will use RHINO first. If I want to buy a shirt, if I want to buy something, I'm going to go on RHINO first and be like, I want to buy shoes. I want to buy groceries. I like, oh, cool, Kimmy down the block. Oh, my first girlfriend, Stephanie. Oh, my third grade teacher, Mr. Smith. Like, how cool. I didn't know they were able to do this, which then goes ahead and encourages others to go ahead and build their businesses. What about a future where entrepreneurship starts at like a 10-year-old kid that everyone is supporting each other? Sounds better than that first future we were looking at before. So that's what we built. That's the sacrifice RHINO made, right? Like RHINO doesn't have money coming out of the sky. I literally live on RHINO. And if you know, I don't have an income, so I eat RHINO, right? Like you can say the word RHINO next to me and I feel my soul better because that's what we work on all day. So when something happens where we identify a marketing director, which actually had a whole bunch of ideas, we work with that person. Do you think we're not a sponge? Do you think we don't hear the ideas? Do you think we don't think of good ideas? Do you think we don't have a history of knowing what to do? And when that individual says, unfortunately, for personal reasons, I have to move on, we say, okay, like, God bless, we're here for you. We're always going to be there for you. If you need anything from us, we're here, but the show don't stop. We're going to keep going. And a year from now, when we look back and say, oh, remember when blah, 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 December 1st became December 5th? I'll say, yeah, did it matter? Nope. The automations. So the challenge with the automations is our dev team, which is really, really great, but they apparently only know computer code language, believed that the challenge was, well, Anthony, how do we go ahead and make the automations real time for transactions that are going to happen? You need to give me a schedule of what they are so the automations could line up those two data points and correctly identify which one happened, right? Like, duh, makes sense. We don't have that. I don't have that Mr. Jones is going to buy something at 7:34 p.m., right? Like, I don't, nor do I want it. And I said, well, why don't we create a hook that hooks it into our Stripe and that triggers the bot? And I got to tell you, our dev team looked at me like I invented the wheel. And and the mistake was, there's no such thing as a bad employee. There's no such thing as a bad student. There's only bad teachers and bad bosses, right? In that moment, I did not look at the person like a complete do-to-do. I looked at myself and said, how am I not more on this, right? Like, how did I, now granted, you might say, well, Ant, like a 2-year-old could have thought of that, but no, the individual is so smart with so much stuff that maybe their brain doesn't have room for the 2-year-old thoughts. And it came down to me, why have I not been on it? Why did I not even have that conversation? So that's being completed, should have been yesterday, but we were allowing it to pull into today. So automations are going to be done. So when I got a bunch of emails and I didn't receive our coin yet, like, how come I haven't received it? because the coin that still needs to go out is much better. Well, it's much more valuable to us if we're able to match it up against what the bot's doing so that we're able to test. Now, I should have messaged that better. Anthony, that makes sense. Just tell me, right? I get it. But I never thought the automations would take this long, so it never occurred to me that this is going to happen 4 days later, so I better message this now. I always thought, okay, it's going to happen 12 hours later. I don't need to really say anything because 12 hours, all right, Ant, 12 hours, we could work with that. And then over the course of those 3 days, things happen. So when I say that mistakes happen, I always say that I'm the one making the mistakes. If a car hits me today, it was my fault I didn't move out the way, right? It's like the joke by Chris Rock when John McCain and Barack Obama were running for president in 2008. He goes, John McCain is so old that no matter how he dies, it's going to be natural causes. He could get hit by a bus. If he was younger, he would have moved faster, right? And the point is, well, I just love Chris Rock. But the point is, no matter what happens, it's always going to be on me. So this is what's going to happen. Automations. Oh, the maps are going to be done by this week. Admin dashboard is going to be done, which allows our concierge department to go ahead and facilitate all requests without having to go to tech team. Automations will be done this week. I'm hoping by tomorrow, but apparently every time I say tomorrow, it's a lie that I'm unbeknownst telling. So let's just say by this weekend, but I really hope for tomorrow. Maps are going to be done by Friday. I might have just said that. Oh, and warp speed will be done by Monday. Now, in our RVP group, I've made it very clear to everyone, have some lead generation ready. In fact, have 100 ready by Friday. Because when we get going, we're going to get going. Now, RVP is a salary paid group. They receive 25 coin every single week, regardless of the price. So the price is now close to $2. That's $50 that's liquid to the person in their wallet. Now, $50 might not sound a lot in America, but our RVPs are from Portugal and Spain and Australia and countries whose currencies are getting absolutely annihilated. $50 is a lot of money. And the coin going up is going to be even more money. I also find that one of the mistakes I make is I'm just too nice. And I'm never willing to go back on being nice. Like I think being nice is a good thing, right? Like I grew up in boardrooms where I had stuff thrown at me. Like Anthony, stand up and pitch that next person, right? Like that's how I grew up. So I have very thick skin. Like you could tell me something and I'll say, okay, like I really don't care. Like my first job on Wall Street was, I lived in Staten Island. I did not have a car. I had to take the train from one side of the island to the other side, take the ferry into Manhattan, walk a bunch of blocks and get there before my managing partner who got there at 7 a.m. As you can imagine, the time I had to leave my house, all to make $250 a week just so I could stay alive long enough to take a test, not to mention I had to get his breakfast and everyone else's breakfast and have it on his desk. And because no one else was there, because it was an unreasonable hour, he just sat there and listened to me the whole time, which looking back at it made me really, really quite sharp in my ability to speak because I was always being watched. Wasn't fun at the time, but I treat our team like with kid gloves, everyone. And RVP too. All right, yeah, get it done. Okay. But my idol, Steve Jobs didn't do that. Gordon Ramsay didn't do that. Like what made them so great was that those that wanted to be great appreciated them because they never lowered the bar to allow everyone to feel good, right? Like in any group, say you have 10 people, but 2 of them want to be all-stars. Well, the 2 that want to be all-stars look like whack-a-mole. When they go ahead and put their head up, everyone else is like, yo, stop doing that. Like, we don't need to do that much work, and you bring them down. Or you can go ahead and push and push and push, and those 2 are the ones that are able to rise with the cream of the crop, while the other 8 just disappear. Well, those all-stars are now the team that you build around going forward, and they let everyone know this is what's expected here. So what's the right thing to do? Hi, Anthony. Once we begin contacting our list, we're going to get track results so we know we get signups. Yeah. So Joseph is one of our RVPs, and my job is the marketing side, right? So I'm building out all of the platform, which will be done Monday. My job is to make sure that I'm able to provide to you all of the tools for you to be successful. So I need to provide to you what is converting, what is working, what's best practices. I've always said with RVP, and this isn't to Joe, like Joe is one of our best, but just give me your passion and I will do the rest. And not like, all right, you don't need to do anything. But I'm going to build it that if you just come to us with passion, we're going to make it work. So as long as you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, which Joe is more than anyone, we're going to do well. So Joe, thank you for the question. So anyway, coins going out today in bulk send. That's owed up until midnight of last night. And then automation should use a referral point as midnight to go ahead and send. So worst case scenario, whoever purchased today will not get till tomorrow, because I'll do the bulk send tomorrow, but hopefully you will. So I'm totally on fire today. So let me get to work. I absolutely love all of you. And in the email, like a Phoenix Rhino that charges forward, I could only tell you that when there's any kind of like mistake or any kind of like hit, I get so excited. Like I want to take this computer and throw it out a window, and I want to go ahead and take the whole world and reinvent it right now. Like you could not tell me no to anything right now. So let's get to work, right? Love you, and let's do it. Bye, guys.